He told me and explained to me that, hey, the things I was doing in my life had invited this activity, this demonic activity. And he told me how Jesus had died for my sins, how he loves me, all of that, like the full picture. We just sat in the car and talked for a minute. And as he was talking, my faith was just budding. Like I was finally believing in what he was saying. And it was almost like the cold, because it was nighttime, but it was almost like the whole car just lit up. Like the Spirit of God just came and just indwelt me. Like I felt it.
Wow.
And ever since that night, everything has been different.
Welcome to a Christian podcast, the podcast where we have Christ-centered conversations. I'm your host, Kevin Wilson. So I am with the One Keon.
Yes, sir.
And man, we're just gonna chop it up, man. I want to get some of your backstory, your upbringing, talk about your music and social media and just a whole bunch of things. So let's just walk us through, how were you brought up? Like, are you from the hood? You from the suburbs? You grew up in the church, not in the church? Just talk about your upbringing for a little bit.
Okay, so I know I'm definitely not from the hood. I don't know. I wouldn't call it the suburbs either. So I don't know what to call that. But yeah, I mean, I had a decent growing up. I mean, decent coming up. I had both my parents in the house. So, you know, I had that stability there. Grew up in the church, actually, my whole life. You know, my whole life, really. Like, I don't remember not being in church. And I even participated in the choir and stuff like that. But I wouldn't necessarily say I was a believer at a young age. But I was there. I was in the activities. I was doing stuff. But yeah, so, I mean, I don't know which direction you want to go with that.
So no, you said something that I can relate to. I just want to talk about that for a little bit. You said you have both parents growing up.
Yeah.
Have you ever, because this is something I felt like is, like, even just comparing my testimony to other people's, have you ever felt like my testimony is not as powerful because I grew up in a decent household? Like you said, you're not really from the hood. Like, I'm just saying, like, I ain't grow up in the hood. There's been times where it's like I've been reluctant to share my testimony, even because you compare that to this person that don't have this parent or that, or they grew up in the trenches, and you like, dang, I don't really want to share my testimony now. Have you ever experienced that?
Personally, nah. And I want to say it might be because of the rest of my story, which is the part where I went off into darkness and then God pulled me out. Gotcha. I do have that kind of detail, but at the same time, I've talked with people who have dealt with that. They compare their story to mine and they'll be like, you know, it's not as dramatic. They didn't have something crazy happen. Right. Even though if they would look closer, there are still things that happen, you know. They came out of darkness into light at some point. Yeah. So I don't think everybody needs to have a dramatic story.
I agree.
You know, it's a good thing if you didn't have to go that far out there. You know, the most important thing is the gospel. Like, if you were way deep in sin, okay, that's an opportunity that you can love God more. Yeah. But, you know, or not more, but, you know, the one who sins much loves much, as Jesus says. Yeah. But nah, I've never had that issue, but anybody that does, like, it's all good. You really don't. Just tell your story. You know, somebody out there that can relate to it, and that's the thing.
That's real. It's your testimony.
Right.
So talk about that, like the dark part of your life. Like you said, you grew up in church, which I have as well. You said you kind of really weren't a believer. I always, you know, believed in God, but my life didn't necessarily always reflect it. Yeah. So talk about that dark part.
And it's interesting, the more I think about this, because I always say I believed in Christ at a certain time, but I actually got baptized when I don't know how old I was, but I was in elementary school. And I'm pretty sure I went through all of the things that, you know, are required to be baptized. I'm pretty sure I made a confession of faith. I'm pretty sure I did all of that stuff. But I would probably say the main issue I had was a lack of discipleship. Like, no one was pouring into me. No one was teaching me how to live as a Christian, what that even means. None of that. Yeah. You know, the most I heard, I mean, of course, the preacher was preaching, but I wasn't paying attention. I was a kid. Yeah. That was not interesting to me. The coolest thing about church with me was Vacation Bible School.
VBS.
Right. And, you know, getting to see my friends at church. That was the cool thing for me. But as I grew up and got older and got exposed to more things, because my mom, she tried her best to keep me, what's the word? I don't want to say sheltered, but keep me, I mean, sheltered is, it can be a positive word. Keep me sheltered from a whole bunch of negative influences. Like she would monitor what I was watching on TV. She would make sure I was listening to, good music.
Same, bro.
In middle school, that's when things kind of changed. That's when I actually got my full introduction to rap music. I fell in love with it. I started listening to all kinds of different artists that were speaking of all kinds of things I had never lived, never experienced. And I started to build a mindset that was different than just the kind of base level mindset I had before. I started having all these different ideas. I started getting ideas of how to treat women, all different things like that, from music. And also stumbling across pornography. That one did a huge blow to my life. But so yeah, and then in middle school, trying to fit in, not fitting in. I tried so hard, but I just could not fit in with the cool crowd. And I kind of see why now. It makes sense now because it's kind of how it is now, but it's for a different purpose. But yeah, so that also played into me becoming insecure. So I was a kid in elementary school. I was a talkative kid. Middle school, I got a little quieter because, actually I turned it up a little bit because I was trying to fit in, but people just weren't responding to it the way I wanted them to. So I got quiet over time because I'm like, hey, y'all not really taking what I'm giving out. So hey, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna fall back. High school, I got super quiet. I was like that quiet kid who don't speak much. I didn't have many friends. It was even a time in high school where I would walk around during lunchtime because I didn't want to be seen by myself. So it got kind of crazy there, but somehow, some way, there was no like outward emotional effect on me of those things. It's kind of, I would say it rolled off of me, but I don't think it did. I think it just internalized into really the porn addiction that I had and the insecurities that was building and stuff like that. So I'm trying to say all this stuff in a short way because it can be really lengthy.
Take your time,
but
bro.
When I got to the point of going to college, that's when I decided, okay, things are going to change. Now, it wasn't an intentional decision to do that, but it was kind of like I saw the opportunity and I went with it.
Gotcha.
So I went almost all the way through high school without ever even speaking to a girl that I liked. And then right there near the end, I just somehow got this little glimmer of confidence and I spoke to this girl. She became a girlfriend. We were in a relationship for like a year. She said she was definitely playing mind games with me. I didn't realize it, but she was manipulating me, all kinds of stuff. Like, and it was my first girlfriend, so I was head over heels. I was trying to do everything I could do to please her, and I ended up getting hurt real bad to the point where I broke up with her because I was just tired of her playing with me, with my mind, and I just went off. I went crazy. Like I was at the shopping center outside talking on the phone, and I was going crazy. Like. If you hearing this, I doubt if you are, but if you hearing this right now, hey, I'm sorry for going off on you that day. That was ridiculous. But you was playing with my head, so you need to repent too. But hey,
everybody repent.
Everybody repent. But so, like I would say, within a month, I had another girlfriend. Just I had this confidence that was starting to grow in me. But she broke up with me because we were going to college, and she didn't want to be tied down, and that hurt me. So I was double hurt. And then here's college, and I don't want to be this quiet dude that I was beforehand. So I get on Twitter, and I'm realizing people from my school are on Twitter. If I just use this hashtag UNCG, people are finding me.
Shout out to
I'm finding them. And I started to gain hundreds of followers on Twitter. I think over time, the most I got was 1,000, but it wasn't all at once. But I started gaining a bunch of followers, and most of them were females, and those were the ones I was talking to, getting in DMs, exchanging phone numbers and everything. This is before school started. So when school started, I already had a list of people that I'm going to meet up with, I'm going to hang out with, all of that. Some of them I'm interested in and more to that. And that was where I started to go off the deep end. Now for me, in my mind at that time, I was coming alive. Like this is like
I'm here.
I'm here. Like people know me. Like people like me. So I was just eating that up. And I would say my insecurity at that time started to show itself as pride. I was still insecure, but it was coming out as prideful, as pride. I was feeling myself. I was starting to have this arrogance about who I am and just all of that. So I got into a few relationships, trying to actually find love. end up getting hurt a few times in college. People that didn't really want me, but they played with me for a while. So that just hurt me even more. I also went off on the wrong end of not necessarily trying to find love, but looking for lust. So I went into, sexual lust, sexual sin, all of that. I did that. And keep in mind, I was only in college for 2 years. So I did a lot in 2 years. But it was mostly dealing with women and just exploring sexuality with women. But then somewhere near the end of my first year in college, that's when I got introduced to weed. Now, my first introduction to it, I was like, this is weird. Like, nothing happened to me. Yeah. But then I figured out how to use it properly, and that's when my life changed. And I would say it went to another level of high. I was already cool because people know me and they think I'm cool. And keep in mind, I only had female friends in college. Right, okay. There was zero. I would say zero male friends. Like, and somebody pointed it out to me once. They thought it was strange that I had no male friends, but that's just how it was. Yeah. I was still insecure. I didn't really know how to like go and make male friends. But so in the freshman year, weed has been introduced to my life, and I am now in love with weed. And it grew and grew and grew. I started listening to Wiz Khalifa.
That'll do it for you.
Yeah, because I was seeing it started. It was the devil was really brewing this. Like, because I was the kid that was like, I'm never smoking weed. I don't need drugs. I started watching Wiz Khalifa because there was people that I knew that was telling me like, hey, he's cool and all of this. So I would go on YouTube. He has like a whole long vlog series of years of vlogs, and I was just over the summer just watching it and ingesting it. Just really just, oh man, this lifestyle is cool. It's cool. So when weed was actually introduced to me, I had the opportunity. It wasn't something I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I gave it a shot. And when I gave it a shot,
it was over.
It was over. So for the next year and a half, I don't know how long it was, a year and a half or so, I was just giving it all. I was into weed. The following summer, after my freshman year, I finally met my she's my wife now, but she became my girlfriend then. And we enjoyed weed and each other together. I would say weed even enhanced some of our experiences that we had. It made us feel even closer and connected to one another. I thank God that we still are close without the weed. Yeah. But I don't know, weed did something, and it was just something special to me. So try to speed this up to get to the point where everything changed. Eventually, the love for weed turned into something very dark. I started to feel very afraid. Fear was just over consuming my life. And there was moments where I would say I was feeling like demons were actually touching me. Like I had this hat on my head. This is where it started. I had this hat on my head. We were walking, and it just felt like something was just doing this to my head, and it was freaking me out. Dang. Like me and my wife, we had just finished smoking, and we were walking back to UNCG, and this hat was it just felt like something was touching my head and it was grabbing. It was freaking me out. Dang. And then when I tried to speak to my wife, it felt like my neck was just not hard, but just like subtly being gripped, like where I couldn't speak. I was trying to like really get her attention. She was in front of me, and I was like trying to speak, and no sound came out whatsoever. Wow. So for somebody who's already afraid, that's terrifying. Yeah. Like, oh my goodness, something's happening to me, and no one knows but me. So I tell her eventually when she turns around, my voice eventually comes back, and I'm telling her like everything that just happened. And she's like, you know what? We're not smoking weed no more. So I was like, cool, yeah, we're not doing this no more. We done. A week or two later, started back again, and still dibbling and dabbling in fear, but it wasn't as bad. And to make it all worse, we were like really loving horror movies at that time, so it was just adding imagery to what was already happening to me. To get to the point where everything changed, I was dealing with fear heavy. I started back feeling like things were touching me, and it would just be random moments. I'd be by myself. I'd be with my wife. It would just be random. And it got to this point where I was just tired of being afraid. Like I would literally try to get up and run and just go outside, and it wouldn't change because it was directly connected to me. Yeah. It wasn't the location. It wasn't any of that. It was me. So my wife was like, you know what? You should call your granddad. And the significance of my granddad is he is an elder at a church or a deacon, or I don't know what other words people have for that, but he's that category at a church. And he
So sorry, there are a group of toddlers outside this podcast studio.
Hey, love the kids though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he came and picked me up. We sat in the parking lot at Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A, shout out to Chick-fil-A. And he told me the gospel. He told me and explained to me that, hey, the things I was doing in my life had invited this activity, this demonic activity. And he told me how Jesus had died for my sins, how he loves me, all of that. Like the full picture. We just sat in the car and talked for a minute. And as he was talking, my faith was just budding. Like I was finally believing in what he was saying. And it was almost like the whole, because it was nighttime, but it was almost like the whole car just lit up. Like the Spirit of God just came and just indwelt me. Like I felt it.
Wow.
And ever since that night, everything has been different. That was March 1st, 2013, the day before my 20th birthday.
Wow.
So I was reborn, born in the Spirit the day before my natural birthday. So that's always special to me, like how God did that at that time. But
that's dope.
So ever since then, I've been living for Christ. I know that was kind of a long story, but
it's important. I mean, because the positive part, like the part where God came in, you don't get the same revelation or you don't get to really see what God did if you don't tell that backstory.
Right.
These toddlers are still walking around, so I was thinking about stopping, but y'all can just ignore it.
Yeah, it probably won't pick up that much.
Right, so y'all be all right. But I'm glad that you talked about and you acknowledged the spiritual and the demonic influence and the repercussions of the things that you were indulging in. So even from music to weed, because a lot of people we think like a lot of people are ignorant to the spiritual realm and and its effects on us, right? We talked about even watching Wiz Khalifa and his music and the videos and him smoking weed and how that affected you.
Right.
But it's like what we don't see even then is like when we partake in certain stuff is it's literally spirits tied to it.
Yeah.
And so like you even described like at one point you felt like a demon was there, like, and that's the case.
Yeah.
Like we don't acknowledge it. Not everybody is able to experience the physical manifestation of it. But anytime we indulge in sin, it's really we're indulging in the demonic realm to a certain degree.
Right.
And so now you're making Christian rap, Christian music. Talk about why you chose to do that, because you could be making any type of music. I think you were saying before you at one point you were making secular music.
Right.
And just talk about that.
So it's interesting because I didn't know that I could make music when I first realized I could. It was almost like this is already in me. Like I found a beat tape. I was in high school, found a beat tape that my uncle had made. And then it was just like, I can write songs. So I started writing music. And it was nothing crazy. It was just like about my love life or just about positive things. But it was still not really about God or anything like that. I wouldn't say it was wrong. It just wasn't in my purpose. So after I got saved, like the next day, because I think it was a Sunday or some day soon after I gave my life to Christ, like very soon after, my granddad invited me and she was my girlfriend into church. And after the service, he encouraged me. He was like, the music that you're making, you should start using that for God. And I was like, you're right. I absolutely should. Because, I just had this great experience with God. And when he said that, it just clicked like, yes, that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, it clicked in another way because actually before I gave my life to Christ, it was this one time I was walking to the street downtown in public smoking weed, which is crazy because I don't think weed was legal then at all to do it recreationally.
Yeah.
And definitely not in my city. But I was high and I got a vision. Now, I know that combination is weird, but God gave me a vision for some reason at that moment and showed me what I would be in the future, which was a Christian rapper sharing his word to people. And when I saw that, I was like, God, I ain't trying to do that, you know, but I felt wrong for saying that. So I was like, I kind of tried to convince God in some way, like, I'm gonna do it at some point, even though like, I don't know if I was actually having a conversation with God, but in my head I was thinking about what was I don't remember if I was actually praying or not, because I really didn't pray like that then. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the secular thing first, build my following, get famous, blow up, and then
try to
switch it over one day. That was my plan. For way down the line. I don't know when. Probably when I was done with, when I was rich or whatever. But God had different plans. So my granddad told me that, I should use this for God. Jump back to where we at. And I went to my dorm at that time and I started making Christian rap. And within that first month from March 1st to somewhere near the end of that month, I dropped my first Christian project. It's called Clouds. It's not out on anything right now. I might put it back out one day. It's some things on there that musically I'm just like, wish I did that different. But content wise, it's actually pretty good. So I don't have any complaints. Like somehow, even at my first month, I was still on point biblically with my lyricism and everything. So I give the credit to God for that.
Yeah,
maybe he was pulling out stuff in me that was already there that I just was sitting on, that was dormant. But yeah, so one of my main motivations for actually making Christian music, of course, I know I'm purposed to do it. My granddad also encouraged me to do it. I see that I can do it. But it was like recognizing how much music had influenced my life. Like I would say that I learned about sex from music and porn, but music, I learned about drugs from music. I learned about, how I want to live my life or the things I'm aspiring to be from music. Music influenced me to do drugs, all of that. And I saw the power that music had. And I saw that the power it had on me. And I was like, you know what? Music is influential. No matter how you want to slice it, it's influential. So I want to use this music, this gift and this purpose that God has given me to influence people for his glory. So I've been really like dedicated to that purpose of like influencing people for his glory. So that's why when you look at my life from now until then, it's a consistency of sticking on that course. Like from 9 years ago to now, I've been making Christian music and I'm staying on the same page, and I'm gonna stay on the same page because I see this music is powerful and I know it can change lives, and I've seen it impact people. People shoot me comments all the time, shoot me messages, and it's like, wow, like this music can really touch people.
Man. That's so dope.
Hey, praise God, man.
So talk about like, cause you make Christian music, not everybody listens to this makes music, but talk about that transformation from living really a secular life to deciding to follow Christ. Yeah. Was there any backlash, meaning were any of your peers like, what are you doing? Yeah. Talk about that, like the negative part that you had to fight through.
Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of close relationships. I knew a lot of people because I just knew a lot of females in college, but I had a few people who were actually my friends. And I wouldn't say that any of them actually gave me backlash, but there was people who didn't know me personally that gave me backlash. I remember seeing like somebody, I was telling my testimony on Twitter, somebody was trying to say like, no, you actually had schizophrenia and all kinds of different things like that. And like people, there was definitely some backlash from people who I didn't know. Yeah. But there was also backlash from other people who thought, I'll say some family, but also just random people I think maybe the devil was using to discourage me. But like just thinking that my decision to drop out of school, because I did end up dropping out of school. I only did 2 years, and I saw I was there for no reason. And I didn't want to waste any more money or time. So I left that. But my family didn't really like that at first. There was several people who thought that was a dumb decision, and I'm like, hey, I'm dropping out of school to pursue the purpose God has given me. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, hey, this is the best thing I could have ever said to y'all. Yeah. But on their end, they're like, I don't know about this. And of course, back then, music wasn't as good, but it was still like major potential. Like it wasn't bad. It just wasn't the same. Yeah. But so yeah, I definitely got backlash for the decision of changing my life because they thought, on one perspective, your family wants you to succeed. I get it. because I'm a parent now. Like, I want my son to have a prosperous life. I want him to be successful.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want him to have to struggle. And my parents don't want that for me. So when I made the decision to go in a direction that looks like it's going to be some struggle, of course they have adverse feelings and thoughts towards that. So most of my adversity was people disagreeing with my decision of what career path I'm going in.
Got you.
And
it wasn't necessarily your pursuit of Christ.
Right.
It was more so like you're doing it this way as a rapper or making music.
Mm-hmm. I didn't like, and I thank God for that, because I don't know. I mean, I probably would have made it through because I had strong faith, but I don't know how that would have affected me. People disagreeing with my faith directly. Of course, I got in conversations and people didn't agree with certain things, but it was never nobody that was close to me, and I'm pretty sure people close to me would have affected me in a different way. So yeah, but I'm sure God would have graced me through it, you know,
for sure,
like He does with everybody who gets through that.
For sure, man, that's like your testimony is powerful, and I'm thinking through like music and purpose, like it all ties into like really what we're here to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is really a story. Like, yeah, you're a rapper. Yeah, you're a musician. You make music. But really, you're just a Christian, a follower of Christ that is walking out His purpose.
Right.
And it seems like for you had one of those like aha moments, like where I realized like right now, like God came to me, and I was given the gospel, and it all makes sense.
Right.
A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people, it takes like a long, long time. And I know yours, you had that moment, but it still wasn't like overnight, like everything.
Right.
But it's dope to see that God can speak to us differently.
Yeah.
He can use us differently. His power can manifest differently in us and through us. And so for you, it's like, man, like it clicked at a moment. It clicked. For somebody, it's like it might take them a few years before they like really get into that groove.
Right. And I would say that's, my wife kind of says that's how it happened with her. She says like me coming to Christ definitely pushed her some to get fully committed, but she said she was like she was on a path getting there.
Right.
You know, so yeah,
and
that happens for a lot of people actually.
Yeah, and so talk about like how do you hear from God? Because I think everybody hears from God differently. Like He's a good father. He speaks to each of His children uniquely. What does hearing God sound like for you? Or like, how does He speak? Is it images? You hear His voice? Is it through, you might read something and then that word reminds you? Like, it's so many different ways.
For real, it is. It is so many different ways. I would say primarily like the biggest way is through the word. Just studying His word, and somehow, I don't know how to describe that part, how He just impresses something on you, and it just clicks, and you know that's God, and that's the direction you go in, or that's the thing you start to change in your life. Sometimes it's like a subtle, what's the word?
Like a
unction, or
like you just kind of like it's like just a innate knowing of like this is the Lord,
right?
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes it's subtle though, and it can be easily, I would say it can be easily ignored most of the time, because you know, I don't think God most of the time, especially when He's speaking to you through the Spirit, is like pressing you hard,
right? But
sometimes He does. But yeah, it's something like, it's usually in that sense, it's very subtle. It's not really a voice for me most of the time, but I can say there has been maybe once where I would say it was a voice. Like I heard it, but it was in a moment where I was feeling like super defeated, self-condemnation. I think I was crying, and I just felt like, man, like I suck. And God said to me, I love you. That's all He said.
Wow.
I love you. And that's exactly what I need to hear.
Yeah.
And I can't say I've ever heard Him speak. And it's hard to describe the voice. It just sounded like it had authority, and like He meant what He said.
Yeah.
And it just that got me up out of that situation. I was still, you know, And to be honest, it was because of my own decisions. You know, it was a decision. It was a place where I got myself into. But he had to tell me that, okay, I still love you.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel all the way like that. But yeah, so I would say those are the main three ways. Sometimes through people, of course. You know, somebody will say something to you, and sometimes you don't realize it's from the Lord. And sometimes you do, where it's like it just clicks in you. But yeah, so other people, sometimes it can be situational, like, you know, just observing something, like, or people, and you just, something just stands out to you, and you know that's like God showing you something in that. So yeah, I think God can communicate to us in several different ways. But I think the main thing is to be like following his will, because it's kind of hard. It's not kind of, it's hard to hear God or to be in a place to receive what he's saying if you're not, you know, following his path remotely. You know, it's hard to be like 100% dialed in all the time. At least it is for me, but I'm trying to get there. But yeah.
No, that makes sense though. I mean, just like even in the natural, like if you don't ever talk to your wife, like let's just say you stop talking to your wife for a month, your communication is gonna look different. Like it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be, you know, it's just like it's not gonna be as sharp. You're not gonna be as tuned in as it if you're talking every day, multiple times a day. And so it's the same thing with God. Like if you constantly talking to him, walking with him, you're gonna hear from him. You're gonna know. It's just like me and you are just meeting, right? You could send me a text and you could just put a period at the end, and I could be like, "Hey, maybe he was being dry, or maybe he, you know, maybe he didn't like what he was saying, or whatever." But if I've been knowing you for a while, and I know like, he just put periods at the end and not exclamation marks, like that's just him. I don't know that now. I don't have that confidence now. But if me and you start to chop it up every day or weekly or whatever the case may be, and I'm like, oh no, that's just Keon. That's how he responds.
Right.
It's the same thing with God.
That's true. You just reminded me of a whole different aspect I didn't even speak about, through prayer.
Yeah.
Because that's a big one. You know, you gotta be praying. Something I need to do better though with prayer is like pause and listen. Sometimes I'll pray and I'll just be talking, you know, to God, and then I just go on my business. But I've been hearing more and more lately, and being reminded like I need to, after I pray, I need to listen for God's response. I think I've probably missed his response so many times because of that.
Man, Saba in one of his raps, he said, and he wasn't talking about God, he was just talking about a relationship with a woman. He was talking about, he said, really, you not just listening, you just waiting to talk. And it's like, sometimes we don't even really be listening for God. We just be talking, and then really we wait for our turn to just keep talking. Or sometimes we don't even give that pause. We don't even give that wait for him to speak. And it's like, man, how can you expect, if I'm just sitting here this whole time and I just talk every word, right?
Yeah.
You like, why am I even here? Like, what am I doing? And God, of course, knows his place in your life. Like, he not gonna feel, I mean, he may be saddened by the fact that you're not trying to listen to him, but he's not gonna be like, he's not gonna condemn you or anything. But it is a level of listening that I, just like you say, I can do better with as well. Just like, what is he saying? What is he saying? Because sometimes I wait for those certain moments where I really need to hear from him. Then I'm trying to hear. But it's like, what if you listen daily?
Right.
You know, what would you hear? And so it's like, go into it expecting for him to speak, not just for you to vent to him.
Right.
So that's a good perspective. I like that. And then as it relates to hearing from God, like I'm starting to grow in my ability to hear, or even just to be confident at what he's saying. Yeah. Because at first I'm like, is that God or is that me? Yeah. And I'm always still very, I won't share anything from the Lord or like from God. I will never say it's from God without 100% confidence.
Yeah.
And even then, I will still leave like I just don't ever want to lead anybody astray. Like I've seen people prophesy falsely, and of course, you know, the word says we know in part, we prophesy in part. But I would rather the error be on me. Yeah. And then like I said this, like I gave you this advice. It's not the Lord, because I don't ever want to mess up somebody's image or idea of who God is.
Right. That's
and
big.
it's so important. I've seen people, God's gonna give you your spouse in 2 months. You're gonna, and now you leaving this person sitting there like, no, it may be better. Hey, I have a feeling that, and this is just me. Maybe it's the Lord, maybe it's not. But I have a feeling that you may come across somebody important in the next. I don't even like giving time frames, like, because unless you really like are prophetic and you heard straight from the Lord, just let them, take it what it is and then give it to them like that.
Yeah, I guess that's something that come with experience too. Like some people, that's an interesting subject when we talking about prophesying and prophets and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure there's some people who, through experience, they know, when God is telling them something.
Oh, absolutely,
but I think there's some people who don't really have the experience, so they just really saying things that they think God is saying. They might they might have it right sometimes, they might have it wrong sometimes. So I don't know.
Yeah, it get a little dangerous when you start to say God said, versus I feel,
right,
or even like I have an impression,
right?
Because I have an impression is different than God spoke to me clearly and said. Like, I get impressions all the time. For people that don't know, impressions are really kind of like, it's your own thoughts, but it's like what God is saying. And so at least that's how I perceive it. And that's how I often hear from God. It's like, it sounds in your head like your own thought, but you know that you're not thinking it.
Yeah.
And so I'll be doing something and I'll have this thought and I'm like, I didn't have a desire to even think that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, let me follow up or let me hit this person up. And then you hit them up and you're like, oh, this is exactly what they needed. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, that was you, Lord.
Yeah, that's an area that I'm learning I need to pay attention to more. Cause it's been a couple of times lately I realized like, whoa, that was actually like God impressing that on me in that moment. Cause it's been several moments where I realized I should have actually hit up that person because now I see like, okay, what I thought was true. Cause for example, I'm not gonna get too detailed, but it was something that was happening in somebody's life and it wasn't disclosed. I didn't even know them that well personally, but I spoke with them not too long ago and I realized, whoa, that actually was happening.
Yeah.
And there was no reason that I knew that except for God. So
absolutely.
I was like, dang, I actually should have said something.
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
And it would be better for you to say something in those moments, hit that person up, hey, check on that person.
Yeah.
And they not need anything.
Exactly.
That's then for better. You to not, and then they needed it. Like I used to be an RA in college, and literally 3 days ago now, I had just thought about one of my residents. Yeah. And I was like, I should hit her up. And literally the next day, she texted me just like a random memory, that video that we had. And I was like, man, it wasn't nothing deep out of it, nothing, I just checked up on her after that. But I was like, I haven't talked to this girl in like over a year at least. Yeah. The day after I thought about her, she hit me up. Yeah. That's not, I'm not taking that as coincidence.
Right.
And so, man, just be obedient in those moments. And again, I'm not saying like you got to go and prophesy to people. The Lord said to me that, like, yo, bro, how you been, man? I just felt led to check up on you. Everything good? Cool, perfect. Anything I could pray for you about? Perfect. You said something that I want to talk on, which is male friendships. Like as a guy, growing up, that was always kind of like, it's just like, I don't know how to fully navigate it. Yeah. When I had some boys in high school that we were really cool. And still some of us are cool now. And then even in college, but it's like, I didn't realize that certain relationships were just based on our similarities or like what we were doing at the time, not based on like our identities or our relationship in Christ. Yeah. And you talked about lack of discipleship, which is something that growing up, I really didn't have any discipleship. Like especially like even at my church now, there's youth that under me that I see and that, I get to walk with in some capacity. Mm-hmm. I had no example of like a godly young man of God that was cool, that was doing it. Like, I just didn't have that, at least
Right.
not close to me. And I always wished that I did.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think I wished it as much then as I did now. Like, man, where could I have been if I just had a dude that was like, bro, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like you said, you have both parents, I have both parents, so I have my dad there. But there's still certain stuff that it's your dad, or it's your mom, it's your parent. Like, I'm a teenager, I'm defiant, so I don't even want to listen to you.
Right.
Versus a young dude that's cool, that I can relate to, that could be like, that's just a dumb decision, bro. Like, don't do that.
Exactly.
And so talk about kind of like how that impacted you.
Yeah, so I didn't even realize that back then. I didn't realize that my lack of that in my life impacted me. But I would say even now, like when I became a believer, as I call it, 2013, when I gave my life to the Lord, I didn't really have discipleship from then till now like that. Like, there was definitely moments where there were people that were more hands-on, but when I think of discipleship, I'm thinking of somebody that's like more closer to your life. They're like more hands-on. They're, helping you to teach you and show you like how you're supposed to live.
Yeah.
And as especially as a man, as a woman, I think we both need a certain type of discipleship that's different, that's more particular to manhood, one more particular to womanhood, because there's a way that God has for both of us to live in a way that's distinct from one another. And I think my life even now would be very different if I had that like direct man to man discipleship, which when I really get thinking about it, I'm like, man, like I really still desire that, even though I'm almost I'm almost 30. I'm 29, just turned 29, but I still desire that from somebody like older in the faith that, has experience, that knows how to be a man. I am a man for sure, but I know I could be a better man, and I know if I learn different things, I could be a better man. But you were speaking about male friendship. So with male friendship, I think that's important too, because iron sharpens iron, especially having believers as friendship in friendship. Yeah. So when I became a believer, I actually for the first time got some like legitimate male friendship. I prayed for it and I got it.
Yeah.
And it was actually, we had music related, so some friendships are easier to build when you have something in common. So it was mostly music related, and I actually tried to start a record label. And it was like, I don't remember how many people were supposedly on this, but it was too many for me to manage. I didn't realize it then, but it was a lot of people, because it was more so like I created a group of people where we just come together and we make music for God. That's basically what I was doing. That's what I should have called it instead of trying to call it a record label, because that's the whole business structure that I'm still trying to learn myself to this day. But there was some good friendships there. There was definitely some iron sharpening iron, but it just fell apart over time. But I think male friendship is important. I have a few male friends. Yeah. One that's like my closest male friend, and I got some other ones that are, kind of lower out on the circle. Yeah. But discipleship, male friendship, I think is crucial. Like very important to just being a disciple or a follower of Christ, whether you're a female or a male. Like I think we all need that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing that we can't limit God on, like you said, you pray for it, you got it.
Yeah.
Pray for it. Like I know it seems like, oh, of course you want me to pray. Like that seems like the generic answer for everything that Christians give. Like pray for it. But honestly, the Lord grants you the desires of your heart. And what good father wouldn't give their children someone else to help them sharpen their life, to be a better man or woman of God? Like he knows all, he sees all, he knows every single person, and he can ordain it. And so even for those people that are like kind of walking by themselves in this time, like continue to keep praying. Don't don't like give up. Don't say like, man, like it's just I'm never gonna have no Christian friends.
Yeah.
I was talking to a girl actually from Australia. She had found the
Wow.
podcast through TikTok, and she DM'd me on Instagram like asking, about like friendships, like saying basically she don't have any community over there. And I'm like, man, I just prayed for her and just told her like, God's gonna bring you some friends. But one practical way, because we always talk about praying, but a practical way is just getting plugged into the church.
Absolutely.
Your local church, or a body of Christ. Because if you want, it just makes sense. If I want friends that love hip hop, I'm gonna go to places where people listen to hip hop. If I want friends that listen to jazz music, I'm gonna go to a jazz club and socialize. Art, whatever, I'm gonna go to some type of painting thing. Like, where are you gonna meet Christians at the church?
Right.
I'm not saying that every Christian at every church is gonna be the person for you, but let's just talk about, we could just take it down to probability. Like, you go to a church, you're more likely to meet people of the same faith and beliefs and desires as you. So that's one way that you can get, plugged in with some people, because I found a lot, like even the people I walk with now, all pretty much my church. So I do want to talk about social media. Okay. Because that's how I found you. Like, I literally was just scrolling and he just popped up on my feed on Instagram. And he had like this dope remix. It was like you was remixing just like different stuff and putting your own spin on it. Yeah. Talk about, and it seems like from what you said before, even like with the Twitter thing when you first started, like you have a knack for social media and how to,
I guess,
how to like keep the attention of people, or just to attract people to yourself. Yeah. Like, cause even talk about just using the hashtag, like that was a unique way to get people to follow you and keep up with you. So talk about your use of social media and your growth over the last however long you've been grinding on it.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that about myself. You just pointed out something to me. So, hey, praise God for that.
Praise Lord.
But what was the question again? Sorry.
Basically, just talk about your grind through social media, how you're using it to glorify God. Even just talk about like your strategy, because clearly there's a method to what you're doing, because it's working. Right. Sometimes we, like you said, sometimes we don't even realize the genius about us because we do it. Yeah. But talk about your process.
Okay, so I can for sure say it's not always been like this. It just started to go crazy for me. So I've been on social media for like seriously since probably before I was a believer, like maybe a little bit before that. So that's like 2012, 2013. I've been on social media. I've been on Instagram. I don't know how long I've been on Instagram, but I've been on there for a minute. And a lot of my older stuff is like archived, so you can't see it. Some of the stuff I left it there, but I used to have some stuff I'm not proud of on there anymore. Like just language and stuff like that, like just different thoughts I thought. But so over time, I gained like maybe 1,000 followers over 8 years of just trying to grind, trying to grow, trying to stay faithful. And it was tough seeing the slow growth because, there's people that I know that got more. Yeah. I'm seeing people with more, and I'm like, hey,
there's
like
people doing less with more.
Exactly.
More. Yeah.
And I'm like, I know I make good music. It might not be perfect. It might not be the best, but I'm like, I know I got good music. I know this music is powerful. I'm seeing it because the people that are listening are like, I'm seeing the effects on them. I'm hearing the testimonies from it. So I'm like, man, like, and I know God has called me to more because in that vision that he gave me, I was like, I saw myself reaching masses. Like it wasn't a small thing. It was something big. But I can say this. I think God took me through this long period to humble me, to get me in a position where I give the credit to him, the glory to him instead of to myself. So I'm thankful for the process, even though it took a while from my perspective. But so I would say last year around September, August, something like that. My friend Mike Teasy actually encouraged me to get on TikTok because he was on TikTok.
Bro, I've been telling people to get on there.
Exactly. Bro. He was on TikTok and he was already getting more traction off of just one post than anything on Instagram at the time. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna check it out. I downloaded the app, and I started just consuming the content. I started just seeing how it works. I started finding a bunch of funny videos that I enjoy TikTok for the funny videos on there because there's a lot of funny stuff on there. But and then eventually I worked up to, okay, let me post clips from my music videos. So if you go back to my TikTok, some of my first stuff is like clips of music videos. And that didn't do as well, but it was like still, I was like, whoa, like hundreds of people saw this. And if I posted this on Instagram, that's not gonna happen back then. So I was like, wow, I should stick with this. So I was seeing the potential in the app. And then I stumbled upon, I probably looked it up on YouTube, like how to blah, 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 TikTok, how to work TikTok, stuff like that. And I came across a few people on YouTube who like give instructional videos on like different things you should do to make your TikToks better. Right. So, and that's the type of person I am. I tend to study what I do to learn how to do it well and stuff like that. So that's something that's consistent for music, the videos that I make, like just about everything I do that I try to do well. I'm trying to figure out how to do it well. So I'm looking for resources. And so I decided to make a remix. Now, the way that happened, it came together in different pieces. Now, I was just in the car one day and I just heard a song and I was like, I think it was Wait on You by Maverick City and Elevation Worship.
I think that's the one I heard first.
That was the first one I made. And I was like, I should remix this song. It was just an idea. It's not a new idea, for me, because it's been plenty of songs over the years I was like, I should remix, but I never did. Yeah. But this one, I was like, I got to get to this one day. So then as I'm studying TikTok and stuff like that, I come across people remixing worship songs. And I was like, I can actually do this. I was like, so I got that Wait on You song. I remixed it. I saw people doing the back and forth format where you got one person performing a song, one person at the desk who's the producer. And I was like, I should do that concept, but make it better. Like remix the concept itself. Oh, hold on. That's not even where it started. Before that, I just did a regular stand before the camera, microphone video. And that one actually did okay. Right. Like people on TikTok loved it, but on Instagram, it went even crazier. Right. But when I remixed the concept to the producer, artist concept, that's when it started going very crazy. Like TikTok ones were just getting hundreds of thousands of views. Instagram, it started off slower on Instagram, but now Instagram is outperforming TikTok for me. Wow. And so it just got crazy. So I was like, you know what? I should stick with this. Even though this is not the main thing I want to do because it's not my original music fully, but I should keep making remixes. So I did like last year before the year ended, I did maybe like 4 or 5 different remixes. I did Gyra, I did Wait on You, other ones. And people really loved them, and I gained so many followers. TikTok is probably at like 120-some thousand now. Jeez. Instagram, this year alone, I've gained probably like 20 to 30,000 followers just in these last 3 months.
By the time this episode come out, you probably gonna be up. It's gonna be even more.
It's crazy. So God, something I'm catching myself because sometimes I'm looking at it like, hey, it's a strategy here. And it is a strategy for sure. It's a strategy here. It's because I'm making good content, and that absolutely is involved. But let me look at the camera for this. Hey, it is God at the end of the day. It's his favor. It's him. It's his plan at work, because I'm telling you, this was his plan from the start. It's just now popping off for me. So
that's real, bro.
But it's a mixture of things, because God definitely has his hand on his favor, but at the same time, there is strategy, there is work, is skill being applied. Just like with the music, it took me time to learn how to make a song that sounds good, to learn how to use my voice in a way that sounds good, how to make beats and mix them and master them and all of that. It took time, but at the same time, God has his hand of favor on it. So at the right time, his will comes together, and then my gift comes together at the right time. Boom, he pushes it where he wants it to go.
Yeah, your works meet your faith.
Exactly.
Faith without works is dead. So you can have God's hand on your life. There's plenty of people that got God's hand on their life, but they're not doing anything because they're not putting in the work.
Exactly. You know exactly. So just to give a little tip, anybody watching this that has something that God wants them to do and they need to use social media for it, which is most people, because social media is just the way we connect with the world. Yeah. learn how to use the platforms you're trying to use. Don't just hop on it and just do random stuff. Like, look at what is doing well out there. Look at videos that are performing well and analyze them and think about, okay, what about this video makes the people watch it? Is it what the person's saying? Is it the way the video's done? Is it like little smaller things that keep your attention? Like, it's so many different ways to analyze this. But yeah, ultimately, that's my strategy, is to try to make content that keeps your attention.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people know how to keep people's attention, and that's good. But I'm trying to keep your attention for a higher purpose. I'm trying to keep your attention to point you to Christ.
Yeah.
And if I can get your attention so you can hear the words I'm saying, my job is done. That's why I mix the comedy elements in with it. I never used to like, well, yeah, I did at the very beginning. I used to do skits and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but for a long time, I took like the funny aspects of me out of this, but I brought it back in with the TikToks because it serves a dual purpose. It keeps the people engaged in the video. They find it funny, but also they're hearing the words. And it's like, cause I see a lot of reactions where they're laughing at what happened, but they're also like, whoa, these lyrics are powerful.
Yeah.
So God can use it all. I would just say, figure out what you can do, what God is wanting to use you to do, and you got to find your avenue to communicate in and hone in on it. And it may take time. Don't be afraid of time. If God has a plan for you, you're gonna see it come to pass. But you gotta be willing to commit for long enough to see it happen. And that's kind of the story, because it was 8 years for me. Of course, there was little things here and there, different concerts, different events, different blessings, all of that through 8 years, because it wasn't like it was nothing. But this last, I would say, 6 months has just skyrocketed, and I don't see it slowing down yet. It's kind of just keep going crazy.
Yeah.
So
take it to the moon, bro.
yes, I'm gonna go as far as I can.
Yeah, like that's so dope. And I feel like just hearing you say that, I'm in the middle part of that process where it's like I'm grinding for some years.
Yeah,
I've only been doing this podcast for 2.5, 3.
Wow, that's dedication, because it's plenty of people who quit.
This is the longest I've been consistent with any creative thing.
Wow.
Like I'm on YouTube. I was kind of grinding on there in college, and then I stopped a little bit. Like now I'm about to start posting more podcast stuff on there.
Yeah.
But I fell off. Just this project. I had a podcast when I was in college. It was just about like marketing, social media stuff. It was just random. I just did to do it.
Yeah.
But this really is the longest thing I've been consistent with. And I feel like I'm at that point where it's the grinding season, and I know where the podcast is going. I see where God has His hand on it. But you said like you appreciate the process, and that's where I am, is making sure that I appreciate the process. Yeah, because one, I know God is sovereign, and He wouldn't give me something I couldn't handle. Right, and so. Yeah, would it be great if the podcast just blows up right now today and it's got 10 million people? Yeah. I might not handle that. I might not be able to handle that.
That's how it be, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I had to trust God's sovereignty, just the fact that He looks over me. You know what I'm saying? He knows everything for me. Right. And I wanted to ask, has there been anything, because we always, when we talk about social media and blowing up, we talk about the good things. Has there been any negative parts about you kind of blowing up on social?
There's definitely a learning curve that comes along with all of these people's attention that I have now. Yes, one of the things I struggle with the most is just being off of it. Yeah, like I'm really, and I've been trying to put this into check before all of this happened, honestly. But now I see why it was so necessary for me to do that, because one, I have this community of people that I do have to be a good steward over, because that's how I look at it. Though I receive a lot from them following me, I am looking at this like I'm serving them with what I do. Yeah, Jesus says that the greatest among you will be a servant of many. So I have a servant mindset. When I make these songs, I'm really trying to impact the people. When I'm making these reels and stuff, I'm really trying to impact the people. So on one hand, it's good to be concerned with what's going on, but on another hand, we gotta be aware that social media is addictive. They make it to be addictive. Like the whole notification system is made to keep you reeled in. The way your timeline works is made to keep you sucked in. Like it's there.
There's so many creative minds behind it that like they have scientists that work and know and understand the brain, and they wire it. Like it's so crazy.
It's crazy. So that gives me even more motivation to be on it, because if people are consuming stuff, I want them to be consuming something good from God.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good perspective.
It's motivation, but at the same time, I don't want to be a victim to the platform. I want to make sure that, especially now, because I don't have a lot of time to waste. Like all my time is very valuable. That's just the stage. I mean, time is always valuable, but the stage I'm in right now in my life, like I just don't have a lot of time to waste. Any time that I have to use, I need to use it and make it really matter. So I hate when I find myself just on the app just to be on it with no purpose whatsoever. I'm just consuming it.
Worse, and you look up and you like, bro, I've been saying for an hour.
Yes, it's like, where did the time go? It just happens. You don't even realize it's a whole hour that's gone by. So what I'm trying to learn how to do is to use it as a tool most of the time. Like the tool aspect is I'm reaching people. Tool aspect is I'm building a community. I'm engaging with my community. But I'm really trying to minimize the consumption part where I'm just on it, because I feel like I do that more than actually using it as a tool. Like when I go back and look at my screen time on my phone, and you can look at how long you've been on certain apps, it's like, I can't believe I was on Instagram that long today. It's like, and then sometimes I'm like, I didn't even really read the scripture that much today, or I didn't pray that much today, but I spent this long on Instagram. It's like, that's so convicting and terrible. So it comes with the negative side, because when you get more, it's like, okay, I have more to be on this app for. It's more reason for me to be on it. But at the same time, that's a good reason to not be on it, because I need that time with God. I need that time with my family. I need that time to make music. I need that time to pour into my wife, to spend time with my wife, to spend time with other people. And I can't just give my whole life to social media. It's a powerful tool. It's great. It's amazing, but it also has downsides. But those are the main issues that come with it. Of course, there's some negative comments I get every now and then. I like to reply to them sometimes. Sometimes I shouldn't. Sometimes I should.
Most times I don't, bro. Like TikTok, they be ruthless.
They crazy on TikTok. It's a whole different game on TikTok.
Because TikTok, you're not really attached. Like your identity is not really attached to it as much as Instagram, where it's like, if I go to your page, I can see who you are. TikTok, it'd be so many random accounts and stuff. They be, bro. When I got on there, at first I was like I was taken aback. Like, am I saying stuff that's wrong, or they coming at me? I'm going back through the scriptures, making sure I'm accurate. Right. And then I'm like, nah, I'm accurate. Y'all just tripping. I had to get my but on there, bro, I don't even most negative comments I don't respond. One, because I'm like, all you want me to do is respond. Two, I'm like, really, it's crazy. I'm sure you experience this, but a lot of the other people be in the comments fighting the battles for you.
Hey, everybody that do that, I love y'all.
I'll be like, hey, they got it. And three, I mean, you're not gonna argue anybody to Christ.
It's not gonna happen.
You're not gonna argue anybody to Christ, right? Especially through social media.
Right.
It's one thing if we sit face to face and you have opposing thoughts and we're having a dialogue and we might not agree, but I can share you the love and compassion of Jesus Christ while I'm arguing, or not even arguing, but having opposing, dialogue with you. But through social media and comments,
it's very tough.
Even if you say something negative to me and I say, Jesus loves you, bro, you still might hear that in like a sarcastic way and think that I'm being funny. So I'm like, most times I just be like, y'all got it. I'm gonna pray for y'all, but that's about it.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to get there, but like sometimes I convince myself like, hey, maybe what I say can change their mind. And I can't say not one time has it actually worked. It's just it's been like to a point where we just agree to disagree on whatever it is.
That's how it started with me. I would kind of say, okay, well, what about this? If somebody point out the scripture and be like, this is wrong, I'm like, no, it's not wrong because of this scripture, this scripture, this scripture.
Yeah.
And they'll just find another. Like, you could find anything in the Bible you want to make it seem like it's the same way that they white people convinced people that slavery was okay. Crazy. By using the Bible, that you can do it to do whatever you want.
Especially if you take stuff out.
Yeah, take this sentence, like, you don't read it with context. You just read this one verse. Right. It's like anything could be anything.
Exactly.
So yeah, man, that's my experience with TikTok, because they be wilding on there.
Yeah. One thing I don't get, I'm gonna say this real quick. I don't get, like, when people who don't like my music comment. Yep. You don't follow me. You're not invested into what I'm doing. Why do you even feel the need to say that? Day? Yeah. I'm like, what?
That's those people. I had one of those situations the other day. I posted something about, like, the gas prices or whatever. Yeah. And I was just talking about my gratitude for the fact that I could pay for gas. And this dude was like, "Sorry, bro, but this is cringe AF." And he was like, you made this a whole life story, blah, blah, blah. And I never said anything. People was in my comments going in on him. I never said anything. But I'm like, bro, I almost felt a little bad for him, because I'm like, your life is kind of bad when you decided to go to somebody's page you don't follow. It probably came up on his Explore page or whatever, but and just decide to comment something negative or hateful. I actually did pray for him, because I'm like, you're not doing good in life. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to remember to have, like, the compassion of Jesus during those moments, because I'm like, you're in some way hurt. You know what I'm saying? You're in some way down bad where you feel like, man, maybe if I do this, like what do you gain from it? Yeah. And so I try my best to have compassion. Sometimes I just be like, Lord, you gonna have to deal with it, because I can't. So, yeah, man. But dog, it's been great talking to you, man. I appreciate you sharing your story. I wanted to give you a chance to plug your social, your merch, anything you got going on.
Yeah. So to find me, my name is the One Keon. So if you search me on Instagram, TikTok, the One Keon, TheOneKeon, you can find me. Spotify, Apple Music, it's the same name, the One Keon. Just put a space in between the one and Keon. Some people be struggling. Right. I have to, like, my name is the same on everything, but some people just struggle to find it. I don't know how they do. But yeah, so like I said, my name is the same on everything. Like, any platform you want to find me at, it's the One Keon. I try to keep it all the same. And nobody be taking my name, thank God. But yeah, check my music out. Do that. Also, merch. I have merch. If you go on my website, you can click the link in my bio, click the little link joint, and click to the merch tab. And I got some merch you should check out. Yeah. I do have I have a own. What am I saying? I have a separate brand for my merch called Reminded Apparel. But the easiest way to find it is just to find me. Click on the link, go to merch, and boom, there you go.
So yeah, check out his music. His music's dope. I've been bumping it. I was just telling him earlier, I'll start singing it because it was in my head. Yeah, hey, check his music out. Check his merch out. Support everything he's doing. Because he's, at the end of the day, he's a man of God that is doing God's will. He could be doing anything right now. He's talented, so he could be literally making your favorite trap song if he wanted to. So support his stuff, man. Appreciate you for the conversation, bro.
Yeah, man. I enjoy myself.